This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two-Footed Podcast here on EPL Index. Now, before we kick things off today, I just want to share something with everybody. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet. We've teamed up with Sky Bet because they truly understand what it means to be a fan. Sky Bet appreciates the length that people go through to support their team in all areas, whether you're a match-going fan or otherwise, and there's just no better fit for us right now than a partnership with the good folks at Sky Bet. So with that said, let's go. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Tuesday, I think. It's Tuesday the 24th of September, and the sun has returned. So I'm feeling chipper today. Don't know what day it is, but I'm feeling chipper anyway. As you will have heard before this podcast began, today's episode is brought to you by the good folks at Sky Bet. And with that in mind, we are going to have a dig into the Sky Bet Championship, League One and League Two. Check out what took place over the weekend and where we're standing at the moment. So, Friday night, Stoke City 1, Hull City 3. Stoke go 1-up through Ben Wilmot, but Casey Palmer, Regan Slater, and a Ben Wilmot own goal give Hull a big win away from home. QPR 1, Millwall 1. Duncan Watmore puts Millwall 1-up, but Michael Frey gets the equaliser before half-time. That's a good point for Millwall away from home in a London derby. Sunderland beating Middlesbrough 1-0 in the Tyne Weir derby. No, the Tees Weir derby. The Weir Tees derby? Because it was in Sunderland. It's the Tees Weir derby regardless, isn't it? Chris Rigg with the only goal of the game. And this is a guy to keep an eye on. This might be the next big talent coming out of the Championship. 17 years of age. He just looks already a class above. He established himself last season, made 22 appearances. This season, he's played 7 games already. He's in the team every week. 32 games under his belt already. Doesn't turn 18 until next June. This is a big-time talent. This is one that Premier League clubs are going to be sniffing around really, really soon. Keep an eye on Chris Rigg. Go and watch as much as you can. He's a really fun player to watch. That's a huge win for Sunderland. Carries on their great start to the season. And what a moment for that kid to get a goal in a derby like that with the club that he grew up in their academy against the local rival. Norwich 4, Watford 1. Callum Doyle opened the scoring for Norwich. Ryan Andrews equalised. Borja Sainz put Norwich back ahead just before half-time. Marcelino Nunes and Ben Crescen with the second half goals to give Norwich a really commanding win. And Watford's great start to the season under Cleverley has hit the skids. Sheffield United 1, Derby County 0. Gus Hammer, how is he still playing in the Championship? With the only goal of the game there. Burnley 2, Portsmouth 1. Portsmouth go 1-0 up. Callum Lang scores in the 42nd minute. Jeremy Sarmiento in on loan from Brighton scores on 63. And Josh Brownhill, who at this point has been at Burnley, 7 years or so? He's been there a good while. And he's become so important to them with his leadership, with his command of the game, his ability to dictate play. He has been there, it's only 4 years. It feels longer. Was it a January move? It was a January move, so it'll be 5 years in January. It feels a lot longer. He was really good for Bristol before going there. I'm a little bit surprised he's playing in the Championship as well. I think there's Premier League clubs that could use him, even if not as a starter, certainly is somebody that they could have in their midfield rotation. He's a good player. That's a big win for Burnley. To go behind and then come back and win it late is always confidence boosting, even if it's a game that you go into expecting to win. Luton 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Barry Bannon puts Sheffield Wednesday ahead on 52. This game changes on 74. Deshaun Bernard is sent off. Carlton Morris equalises for Luton from the penalty spot 3 minutes later, and it's Morris with the winner on 88. If Bernard doesn't get sent off, Luton potentially lose again. Cardiff City 0, Leeds United 2. Joel Began sent off on 23 minutes. Ramazani scores for Leeds on 30, and Joel Perot grabs the late second on 87 minutes. West Brom 1, Plymouth 0. Josh Maja continues his good start to the season and gets the only goal of the game. Bristol City 2, Oxford United 1. Ruben Rodriguez puts Oxford 1 up on 28 minutes, but Sinclair Armstrong on 57 and a Naki Wells penalty on 76 gives Bristol a big win at home. Coventry 1, Swansea 2. This is a great result for Swansea. Liam Cullen scores at 8 minutes. Ollie Cooper makes it 2 on 32 minutes. And there's an own goal by Ronald on 34, gets Coventry back in, but they just couldn't buy an equaliser. And then finally, Preston 0, Blackburn 0. Let's start with Sam Greenwood sent off in the first half. Little bit controversial. Owen Beck sent off in the 89th minute. The sending off, not controversial. The melee around it and the fact that he was bitten, very controversial. And not the last we'll hear of that. So, West Brom are top with 16 points. Then you've got Sunderland on 15. Burnley have 13. Blackburn and Sheffield United have 12. Leeds have 11. Swansea and Watford have 10. Oxford and Derby with 9. Norwich, Middlesbrough and Bristol all with 8. QPR and Luton with 7. Luton now back-to-back wins. Hull and Stoke on 6, Millwall, Coventry, Plymouth and Preston all on 5, Sheffield Wednesday on 4, Pompey on 3, and Cardiff sit bottom with 1 point. And obviously last weekend we had the news that Stephen Schumacher had been dismissed as the manager of Stoke City. That one was quite surprising. This one, not so surprising. Errol Boulette sacked by Cardiff, and we await the decision on who will replace him. He took over in June of 2023, oversaw 58 games, 21 wins, 7 draws, 30 defeats. That's a lot of games to lose. That's an awful lot of games to lose. Finished 12th in his full season in charge, which, isn't terrible, but this season has just started so poorly, but rock bottom of the league with their 1.5 defeats, 1 goal scored, 13 conceded. No surprise that they've made that decision and moved on from him. Right, let's move to League One next. And we begin with Exeter 2, Stevenage 0. Edward Albert Francis and Kamari Doyle with the goals for Exeter. Lincoln City 0, Wigan 0. Peterborough 3, Bristol Rovers 2. Poku, Jones and Mothersill with the goals for Peterborough. McCormack and O'Donker scoring for Bristol. Peterborough were 3-0 up. Bristol got the 2 goals to try and rescue it, but were unable. Bolton 5, Reading 2. Josh Sheehan, a hat-trick for Dion Charles, including 2 penalties, and Kyle Dempsey with the goals for Bolton. Ben Elliott and a Sam Smith penalty for Reading, who never got within 2 goals. It was 3-0, then 3-1, then 4-1, then 4-2, and then 5-2. So not like a thing where Reading came close to winning that game. Stockport 1, Leyton Orient 4. Huge win for Leyton Orient. 2 from Ethan Galbraith, 1 from Dan Agee, and 1 for Sean Clare. Jack Diamond with the Stockport goal in that one. Wrexham 2, Crawley 0. Elliot Lee and Max Clayworth with the goals. Either side of an Armando Jr. Quitina goal for Crawley. So good win for Wrexham to get back on winning ways after losing to Birmingham the previous week. Speaking of Birmingham, they went to Rotherham and won 2-0. Iwata and Stansfield, who they paid a fortune for, with the goals there. Huddersfield 1, Northampton Town 3. Halleck, McGeehan and Fosu with the goals for Northampton, who also had Odimeo sent off. Josh Karoma with the only goal for Huddersfield. Mansfield Town 2, Shrewsbury 1. Leo Castledine put Shrewsbury 1 up on 2 minutes. A Lee Gregory penalty on 49 and Aaron James Lewis scoring the winner for Mansfield on 86. Wickham 2, Cambridge United 1. Gareth McCleary put Wickham 1 up. Dan Lundulu, who I think used to play for Southampton, equalised, and then Cameron Humphreys got the winner for Wickham. Did he play for... I think he did. Let's see. Yeah, he was in the Chelsea Academy till 14, then went to Southampton, came through their academy and played for them for a couple of years, but was out on loan a bunch of times. Went to Bolton and is currently on loan at Cambridge from Bolton. 15 appearances in total for Southampton, all of them coming in the 2021 season, which is, of course, the COVID year. Moving on. Charlton 1, Blackpool 2. Ahadme put through his own net to put Blackpool 1 up. Albie Morgan made it 2-0. And then Luke Berry pulled one back for Charlton in the 96th minute, but they couldn't find an equaliser. Final game then, Burton 1, Barnsley 2. Luca Connell opened the scoring for Barnsley. Jack Cooper-Love equalised for Burton in the 88th minute, but Stephen Humphreys in the 90th minute with the winner for Barnsley. Steve Bruce has made a good start to life at Blackpool, hasn't he? 3 games, 2 wins, and 1 defeat, turning things around quickly after the dismissal of Neil Critchley. They've taken 1 point. They've taken 2 points before he got there. One of them was after Critchley was fired. That's pretty good, though. His defeat came in the Cup, so he's won both league games and moved them up to 13th. So the league table has Wrexham top, 16 points. Birmingham also 16 points. Birmingham do have a game in hand. Barnsley and Charlton both have 13 points. Huddersfield have 12 from 6 games. Lincoln have 11 from 6, as do Stockport and Mansfield. Wickham and Peterborough have 10 from 6. Exeter have 9 from 6. Northampton and Blackpool have 8 from 6. And then you have Wigan, Stevenage, Reading, Crawley, Bolton and Bristol Rovers, all with 7 points. All have played 6, bar Bristol Rovers, who've played 7. You've got Leyton Orient with 6 from 6, Rotherham 6 from 7, Burton 4 from 6, Shrewsbury 3 from 7, and Cambridge 1 from 7. Not going well at all. I suppose the big loser this weekend is Stockport, who had started the season very well through the first 3 games, but now haven't won in their last 3 league games. And that defeat at the weekend, I think, will sting for them. So I do think they would have expected to get a victory there. I don't think that they've expected to lose at home to a Leyton Orient team that are sitting in 20th in the league after that win. We're in the relegation spots pre-game. No managerial changes since the Steve Bruce hiring. Critchley is the only manager to be sacked in season so far in the Sky Bet EFL League 1. So let's move to League 2. This is, of course, match week 7 there. So Accrington Stanley 2, Port Vale 2. Chesterfield 1, Cheltenham 1. Colchester 3, Tranmere 0. Crewe Alexandra 0, Harrogate Town 0. Bradford City 0, AFC Wimbledon 0. Salford City 0, Walsall 2. MK Dons 1, Doncaster 1. Both teams with a player sent off. Harry Clifton sent off for Doncaster after 10 minutes. Ellis Harrison for MK Dons after he had opened the scoring in that one. Swindon 0, Carlisle 2. Barrow 2, Newport 0. Notts County 0, Gillingham 1. Grimsby 1, Bromley 0. Fleetwood 2, Morecambe 2. That's a good point for Morecambe, given it's their second point of the season. Top of the league is Barrow, just ahead of Gillingham on goal difference. Actually, it's on goals scored. They have the same goal difference. Walsall have 15. Notts County have 14. AFC Wimbledon have 13 points, but they have played a game less. Doncaster have 13. Crewe have 13. Bradford and Port Vale have 11. We then have Chesterfield, Colchester, Fleetwood and Grimsby, as well as Newport County, all on 9. Fleetwood have only played 6, so they've got the game in hand as well. Salford and Tranmere both have 8, and they've only played 6 games. Cheltenham, Bromley, MK Dons and Harrogate all have 7 points. Swindon and Carlisle have 6. Accrington Stanley have 3. And Morecambe have 2. And we did have a recent managerial change here. We had actually 2. One hasn't been completed. So Carlisle sacked Paul Simpson on the 31st of August, and on the 19th of September last week, they hired Mike Williamson. Now, you might remember Mike Williamson, who was at Newcastle for a long time. He had been the MK Dons manager. He cut his teeth in management at Gateshead. He's quite highly thought of. He's only 40, turns 41 next month. He's quite highly thought of as a coach. He's done a pretty good job at MK Dons since taking over, though this season hadn't started great. He did a really good job with Gateshead. He is the new manager now of Carlisle United. Obviously, he wanted, I suppose, to move back up north. So I suppose that makes sense. So now MK Dons are looking for a new manager. So we will wait and see who they appoint. They have had a bit of a track record of going with younger managers, up-and-comers. So I'm curious to see who they go with next. Because if we look at some of the names that have been there in recent years, Graham Alexander, I wouldn't class as a young manager, but he was only there short term. It did always seem like more of a short-term fix. Mark Jackson, when they appointed him, that was seen as quite a gamble. He was unproven. He'd been working with Leeds in their under-23s. He's now managing Central Coast Mariners in Australia. Prior to him, it was Bradley Johnson. Now, again, that was only a caretaker, as was Dean Lewington. Before that, though, it was Liam Manning. Liam Manning now is the head coach of Bristol City. He has managed Oxford United in the interim between MK Dons and Bristol City. He was 36 when they brought him in. Dean Lewington was a caretaker. Russell Martin was a very young choice as well. They hired Russell Martin in 2019. He was 33 years of age. Before that, it was Paul Tisdale. And again, a younger manager. He was 45, but he'd been at Exeter for a long time. He did have a lot of experience, but it was still a step up for him to take that job. Keith Millen was a caretaker. Dan Michichi was a young, highly thought of coach who'd been with England's under-16s. He wouldn't last very long. He ended up going and working in the Arsenal Academy for a couple of years. He's now the assistant manager at Crawley Town. Robbie Nielsen was in before him. He was, I think, 38 when they appointed him. He had 36 maybe. He had a little bit of experience with Hearts. He's currently the manager of Tampa Bay Rowdies. Prior to that, Richie Baker was a fill-in, an interim. But Carl Robinson was a young manager when they appointed him as well. He was only 30 when they appointed him. He was there 6 years. So, they do have a track record of going with younger, unproven managers and giving them an opportunity. Like Roberto Di Matteo, for example, was a manager there for a year. He was 38. That was his first job. He obviously didn't turn out to be a particularly good manager. Failed spells at West Brom, Schalke and Villa. But he did win a European Cup with Chelsea, and that will always be on his CV. Paul Ince was also young. I think he was 40 when they appointed him. He'd been at Macclesfield for a little while. But yeah, they've got a track record of going with younger managers and giving them opportunities. And we'll see how it works out. We'll see who they go with next. There's obviously been quite a few that haven't worked for them, but some have worked out really well. And I am interested to see who MK Dons go with next. We might as well, while we're here, have a quick glance at the National League. So at the weekend, where am I? Sutton United 3, Ebbsfleet 2, Maidenhead 0, Halifax 1, Hartlepool 0, Dagenham Redbridge 1, Solihull Moors 2, Southend 4, Aldershot 0, York City 0, Gateshead 0, Forest Green 2. That's a great win for Forest Green. Oldham 1, Yeovil 0, Altrincham 2, Boston United 2, Braintree 0, Tamworth 1, Field 1, Woking 1, Eastleigh 4, Rochdale 2, Wheelstone 0, Barnet 3. So Barnet are top, 21 points. Same as Forest Green and York. They've got a better goal difference than York, and they've scored more goals than Forest Green. Then we have Eastleigh on 19. Rochdale, Oldham and Gateshead all on 17. Gateshead do have a game in hand. Dagenham and Halifax have 16. Sutton United have 15. Solihull Moors, Woking have 14. Southend, Aldershot, Hartlepool and Yeovil have 13. Altrincham have 12. Tamworth have 11. They've got the game in hand against Gateshead. Boston and Field have 9. Braintree have 7. Wheelstone 6. Maidenhead and Ebbsfleet have 5 points each. 10 games in, so their season's well underway. Starting to take real shape now. Managerial-wise in the National League, Ebbsfleet sacked Danny Searle. They hired Harry Watling. And Field sacked Chris Beach. They have not yet made an appointment of a new manager. So that's where we sit in that regard. Right, I'll go to break. When we come back, we will take a trip around Europe. See you in a sec.
In the dynamic world of programmatic ad buying, Viant is your ultimate CTV partner. Target with precision. Buy with confidence. Viant empowers you with AI-driven technology that reaches your audience where they engage most, ensuring your message hits home. And the campaign results? Transparent, thanks to Viant's advanced measurement suite. For media buyers who demand the best, Viant delivers. Viant, elevate your CTV campaign performance.
Right, welcome back. So, in Spain at the weekend, Alaves beat Sevilla 2-1 on Friday night. Carlos Vicente and Carlos Martin with the goals for Alaves. Dodi Lucabacchio, who was once owned by Watford, pulled one back for Sevilla, but they couldn't find an equaliser. Valladolid 0, Real Sociedad 0. Sociedad's disastrous start to the season continues. Osasuna 2, Las Palmas 1. Budimir and Oros with the goals for Osasuna. Alberto Melero, who's very, very talented, with the goal for Las Palmas, little diminutive playmaker type. Valencia 2, Girona 0. Roja and Gomez with the goals. Real Madrid 4, Espanyol 1. Thibaut Courtois scored an own goal to put Espanyol 1 up. Real stank the place out first half, but Carvajal Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr. and an Mbappe penalty gave Real a comfortable win that flattered them in some ways. Getafe won, Leganes won. Jorge Sanz with the goal for Leganes put them one up. Borja Mariol with a penalty in the 83rd minute to rescue a point for Getafe. Athletic Club 3, Celta Vigo 1. Gorka Guruseta scored 2. And Alvaro Giallo scored the other for Athletic Club. And Iago Aspas penalty had made it 1-1. Villarreal 1, Barcelona 5. Now, the big news coming out of this game is Marc-Andre ter Stegen tearing his patella tendon. He's done for the season. That's a huge blow. But 2 for Lewandowski, 1 for Pablo Torre, 2 for Rafinha, who's on a tear at the start of the season. Jose Perez pulled one back for Villarreal when they were 2-0 down, and then Barca proceeded to wipe the floor with them. Rayo Vallecano 1, Atletico Madrid 1. Palazon scored for Rayo Vallecano, and Conor Gallagher got the equaliser for Atleti. Conor Gallagher started life in Spain pretty well. This was not a good performance from Atletico Madrid. They stink away from home at the moment. Real Betis 1, Mallorca 2. Bad result for Real Betis at home. Lo Celso had put them one up. The lead lasted a minute before Dani Rodriguez equalised, and Valeri Fernandez in stoppage time gave Mallorca the victory. So Barcelona are top, 18 points, perfect, 6 wins from 6. Real Madrid are 4 points back, so 14 points for them. Athletic Club have 13 points, 7 games played. Atletico Madrid have 12 points. Mallorca have 11 points, again, 7 games played. They've had a great start to the season, to be fair. Villarreal, 11 points. Alaves and Osasuna, 10. Celta Vigo, 9. Vallecano and Betis, 8. Girona and Espanyol, 7. Leganes, 6. Again, 7 games played. Sevilla, 5. Real Sociedad, 5. And they've played 7 games. Valladolid have 5. Getafe have 4. Valencia have 4. And Las Palmas have 2. They have not won yet. Only Las Palmas and Getafe yet to win in La Liga this season. No managerial changes made, though, in Spain thus far, which surprises me a little bit, given the general chopping and changing that we tend to see in Spain. But teams are holding firm, we'll call it, at the moment. Let's go to Serie A. They're not quite as deep into the season, only 5 games there as opposed to 6 and in some cases 7 in La Liga. So, Cagliari 0, Empoli 2. Colombo and Esposito with the goals there. Empoli have made a great start this season. Not as good as Torino, though. Verona 2, Torino 3. So, Sanabria, Zapata and Che Adams with the goals for Torino. Castanos and Mosquera with the goals for Verona, who had Dawidovic, I think it's Dawidovic, sent off on 20 minutes, which kind of screwed the game up for them. But it's a great win for Torino away from home. Venezia 2, Genoa 0. Gianluca Busio, who's a talented player, opened the scoring. And Joel Pojanpalo, who, when he was like 15, had trials with Liverpool. I think he was at Leverkusen for a while. He's bounced around a decent amount. He was one of the next big things when he was like 15, 16, and Finnish striker. He's now 30. He's become pretty much a journeyman. Mostly loans. Like, he's only been owned by 4 clubs, but he's had 6 different loans. He's a good player. Like, he is. He's a good goal scorer. Was brilliant for them the last 2 seasons. Joined them in Serie B, scored 19 in 37 and then 22 in 33. And now he has his first goal in Serie A. He is a good goal scorer. Whether he gets enough to keep them up, I have no idea, but he's a good goal scorer. Back we go. Juve 0, Napoli 0, Lecce 2, Parma 2, Dorgu and Kristovic for Lecce, who also had Gilbert sent off. The big story with this game, though, is Parma's comeback. So, Dorgu scores, Gilbert gets sent off, Kristovic makes it 2-0, but they're down to 10 men. No, hang on, I've gotten the timeline wrong. Dorgu scores, Gilbert gets sent off, Cancellieri gets sent off, so it's 10 men apiece, 1-0 to Lecce, then Lecce go 2-0 up with Kristovic, and it stays that way till the 93rd minute. Almquist scores to pull one back for Parma, and then Haynout scores to make it 2-2 and give them a share of the spoils. But they battered Lecce all over the place. It was that I didn't see the whole game. I saw the extended highlights, about 20 minutes worth. It was quite the scene to see. Parma absolutely all over them. Lecce defending like their lives depended on it, and eventually Parma broke them down. Fiorentina 2, Lazio 0. Gila opened the scoring for Lazio. A pair of penalties by Albert Gudmundsson gave Fiorentina the victory. Monza 1, Bologna 2. Urbanski scored for Bologna. Duric equalised for Monza, but Santiago Castro found a winner and gave Bologna a big 3 points. Roma 3, Udinese 0. Dovbyk, Dybala and Baldanzi. All is not well at Roma, though. All is not well. And then in the big game on Sunday, we had Inter against Milan. Christian Pulisic opens the scoring for Milan. Di Marco scores to equalise for Inter. And in the last minute of the game, Matteo Gabbia finds the winner. Huge win for Milan, and frankly, deserved on balance of play. Today, if you're looking for a game of football to watch and you don't fancy the EFL, Atalanta against Como played today. That's making up the game they missed because they were playing in the Super League or something, the Super Cup or something like that. Table. Torino top with 11 points. Napoli and Udinese have 10. Juve and Empoli have 9. Inter and Milan have 8. Lazio have 7. Atalanta have 6, but they have this game to play tonight. Roma have 6. Verona have 6, as do Fiorentina and Bologna. It's all very condensed. Parma, Genoa and Lecce all have 5. Venezia have 4. Monza 3. Como 2. And Cagliari 2. So a win tonight for Atalanta will jump them to 6th ahead of the two Milan clubs. But a win for Como will jump them out of the relegation zone into 16th, which would be massive for them and give them their first win of the season. Unsurprisingly, in Serie A, we have had managerial change, and that, of course, was Daniele De Rossi being sacked and replaced by Ivan Juric, who has managed Genoa 3 different times, Hellas Verona, Torino, left Torino at the end of last season, and then they've had this massive resurgence this season. So, I don't know. I've never been a huge fan. I think he's a little bit of a... What's the word? He's one of those managers that I think will play exciting football, but not necessarily win anything. I don't think he's got enough pragmatism about how he goes about his jobs. But I am curious to see how he does at a big club like Roma, where there is going to be a lot of expectation on him, and where this ownership have shown if you don't get the results that they're looking for, they will fire you. They don't really care. And he doesn't have the same type of sway with the fan base as the last two managers, Mourinho, who the fan base loved, and of course De Rossi, who's maybe the second greatest player in Roma history, certainly the second most beloved player in Roma history after De Rossi. So big pressure. We'll move on to Germany, where in the Bundesliga at the weekend, Augsburg 2, Mainz 3. Bochum 2, Holstein Kiel 2. Heidenheim 0, Freiburg 3. Union Berlin 2, Hoffenheim 1. Werder Bremen 0, Bayern Munich 5. Michael Olise 2 goals, 2 assists. Eintracht Frankfurt 2, Borussia Mönchengladbach 0. Bayer Leverkusen 4, Wolfsburg 3. More late Leverkusen magic with Victor Boniface scoring the winner in the 93rd minute. Leverkusen had actually been behind twice in that game, but came back to win. The Yannick Gerhardt sending off in the 88th minute really killed Wolfsburg's legs. Stuttgart 5, Dortmund 1. I mean, they're both in the Champions League. They're both decent teams, but quite surprising to see Dortmund just completely destroyed in that manner. St. Pauli 0, Leipzig 0. Table-wise then, Bayern are top, 4 wins from 4. Leverkusen second, they've got 9 points, as do Freiburg and Eintracht Frankfurt. Leipzig and Berlin have 8 points each. Stuttgart and Dortmund have 7. Heidenheim have 6. Mainz 5. Werder 5. Augsburg 4. Wolfsburg, Mönchengladbach and Hoffenheim with 3. Bochum, St. Pauli and Holstein Kiel with 1 point each. No victories as yet. And in terms of managerial change, there has been none thus far. We'll go to France next. At the weekend, there was some mental games. So Nice put on an absolute clinic against Saint Etienne and won 8-0 on Friday night. Lille and Strasbourg played out a 3-3 draw, where Lille needed a late Jonathan David penalty to rescue a game in which they'd been 2-0 up. Rennes won, Lens won. That was a late Enzola goal to equalise there for Lens and give them a point. Reims won, PSG won. That was quite the upset. Monaco 3, Le Havre 1. Monaco's good start to the season continues. Angers 1, Nantes 1. Interesting to see Le Pen scoring there. I'm not really sure what's gone on with him, with Lyon, why he's out on loan. He's too good to not be playing for Lyon every single game. They've made a mess with him and every other young player who's come along in recent years. Montpellier 3, Auxerre 2. Hamid Traoré, who's in on loan from Bournemouth, scored one of the Auxerre goals. Brest 2, Toulouse 0. And then in the big one on Sunday night, Lyon 2, Marseille 3. So Belardi gets sent off after 5 minutes. Booked after 1 minute. Sent off after 5. Coletta Carr opens the scoring for Lyon on 53. Lirola equalises on 69. And then Garcia puts Marseille with 10 men up 2-1 in 82 minutes. Rayan Cherki scores in the 93rd minute. And Jonathan Rowe, who's on a loan, I think with an obligation to buy from Norwich, gets the winner on 95 minutes to give Marseille a massive win. So PSG, Marseille and Monaco all have 13 points. Lens have 9. Nantes and Reims have 8 each. Nice, Rennes and Lille have 7. Strasbourg, Brest and Le Havre have 6. Toulouse have 5, Lyon and Montpellier 4, Auxerre 3, Saint Etienne 3, and Angers 2. Managerial changes, none thus far. None thus far. Good to see Lens doing so well under Will Still, who obviously everybody became very familiar with when he was at Reims. He's a very talented young manager that was expected to take over at Sunderland, I think, during the summer, if memory serves. But he decided that he wanted another challenge in France, and it's going well. It's going very well. To Portugal we go. Braga go to Nacional and win 3-0. Santa Clara beat Estrella 1-0. Rio Ave and Estoril played a 2-2 draw. Vitória 0, Porto 3. That's a really good win for Porto. Amor Dion with 2 goals in that one. Moranense 0, Familcar 0. Gil Vicente 1, Casapia 1. Ferenc 0, Aroca 1, Sporting 3, AVS 0. 2 more goals for Victor Gyökeres, who I think is 10 in the league already. He is a machine, an absolute machine. His goal-scoring record since going to Sporting is just silly. Last season, 43 goals in 50 games. This season, it is 11 goals in 8 games. So he's got 54 in 58. It's silly. And he's only going to get better. Like, he is only going to get better for the next year or two. Such a good player. Finally then, Boavista 0, Benfica 3, Pavlidis, Koku and Cabral with the goals there. Sporting look invincible, frankly. 6 wins from 6, 22 goals scored, the best in the league by 10, and only 2 goals conceded, which again is the best in the league, though only by 1 this time. So 18 points for them, 15 for Porto, 13 for Benfica. Santa Clara and Vitória have 12 each. Famalicão and Braga have 11 each. Moreirense have 8. Then we have Gil Vicente, AVS, Casapia and Rio Ave with 7. Estoril have 6. Arouca have 6. Boavista have 5. Nacional have 4. Estrela have 2. And Ferenc have none. 6 defeats from 6. That's not great, is it? Not great at all. We have had at least one... No, we've had, one managerial change in Portugal. Technically 2. Because Daniel Sousa was sacked on the 11th. The season had just begun. And Carlos Carvalho took over. Roger Schmidt obviously sacked as manager of Benfica, replaced by Bruno Lage. Nothing since then. And we'll go to break again. Back after this. Right, welcome back. So we have EFL Cup action tonight. We have 4 games tonight. We were meant to have 5. The Newcastle versus AFC Wimbledon game has been postponed. So we have 4 games tonight and then 2 tomorrow night. So tonight you get Walsall against Leicester City. Obviously Leicester haven't made a particularly great start to the Premier League season. Walsall are sitting 3rd in League 2. At home, potential of an upset? Maybe. Wouldn't rule it out. Wouldn't rule it out at all. But Leicester will be heavily favoured. Man City then against Watford. Obviously City are top of the Premier League. But they have lost Rodri. Now, he wouldn't have played in this game anyway, but it does just change the configuration of when they were planning to play players. Taking on a Watford side who are currently 8th in the Championship, who had started the season obviously very, very well, but it has turned on them. So they beat Millwall, they beat MK Dons in the Cup, they hammer Stoke, they beat Derby, they beat Plymouth. But then they lose to Sheffield United, draw at home with Coventry, and then get walloped by Norwich. So this won't be the game to turn it around. They're not going to go to the Etihad and win. But if they can avoid getting pumped, I think they can take some confidence from that. Chelsea against Barrow. That is, I think, quite an interesting game. Purely to see what Chelsea do with rotation. Does he continue to try and find cohesion in his first 11 and play a strong team? Or does he heavily rotate? My guess is he probably heavily rotates. And why wouldn't you? But let's remember, Barrow are top of League One. They're a team with confidence at the moment. They will almost certainly lose this. But they'll come in at least feeling like they can try and play their football. So that one should be interesting. And then Wickham against Aston Villa. Obviously, Villa have started the season really, really well, but, they'll be wanting silverware this year. And the EFL Cup represents a chance at silverware. Wickham are 9th in League One. Villa will be going there expecting to win that game. I am again curious to see how much rotation there is from Unai Emery. So there are 4 games tonight: Walsall, Leicester, Man City, Watford, Chelsea, Barrow, and Wycombe, Aston Villa. I assume, like, Walsall, Leicester's probably the 2 teams closest together in terms of quality. But I think I'll watch Wycombe, Aston Villa, which is the Martin O'Neill derby. Wycombe is the club he made his name at as a manager. Obviously made his name as a player with Nottingham Forest, but as a manager made his name at Wycombe. And then Villa is a place that he was quite good for quite a while. 2 games tomorrow night, and then Newcastle, Wimbledon is next Tuesday. It's a waterlogged pitch, so yeah. 7:45 for all games tonight except Wycombe, Aston Villa is at 8 p.m. kickoff. And with that, I will see you later. This show was brought to you by Sky Bet, as you heard at the start of today's show. We want to thank them for their continued support. And as always, to get involved with Sky Bet, you need to be over 18. And if you have questions or queries or problems with gambling, visit begambleaware.org and stay safe. Bye-bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.